like a deep dark night. But follow me outside into the moonlight.
Welcome back to the Moonlight series of The Wild Rose Moon, featuring the talent that surrounds us all. Tonight we have Cynthia Boener joining us, along with our host John Bahler. I am Ryan Meir. Off we go into the moonlight.
Hello, welcome to Moonlight. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm John Bahler, and our guest tonight is just something else. We got Cynthia Boener over here. She'll be playing some harp music, and I would just say music is just thoroughly a part of her life in terms of her education, leisure, and you've done this professionally, part of your spiritual life as well.
Yes.
And I guess I just want to start off with where did music first begin to seep into your life?
The first memory I have of music is when I was a little girl growing up in Virginia, a small town called Calio. My grandmother had taken me to see a parade there. And I remember standing on the street, and I was quite young, maybe 5. And I'm asking my grandma, what is a parade? I mean, she was saying this was this wonderful thing, and all of a sudden I see these cars go past and these floats, and I'm like, really? This is a parade, okay. But then I heard this sound, and it was like the drums were thumping, and I just got all excited, and then I heard the music and the trumpets and this band comes down, and I'm like, oh, I was just so fascinated. And I remember taking off and running, and grandma grabbing me, no, you can't go past. But it was just the most wonderful, beautiful sound I had ever heard, and I wanted to hear it over and over again. And then my mom played piano, but we didn't get a piano in the house that I can remember until probably 6 or 7. And I would sit and watch her play, and her hands moving over the keys and the way the sound came out. It was just a new world that I wanted to be a part of. So, yeah.
So when was it that you started? You started on piano then?
I started on piano. In fact, I taught myself for about a year because my mom, for whatever reason, I think she probably thought I wasn't going to follow through with it, didn't really seem inclined to let me take lessons. It could have been a financial thing too. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But after she saw that I kept at it, I started taking formal lessons, and I think I was 7.5 at that point, and I continued all through high school with piano lessons. Then in band, of course, you can select an instrument, and I always wanted to play flute, so I played flute. And then one day the band director comes to me, I think I'm a sophomore, and he says, I think you need to learn how to play the oboe. And I'm like, oh, really? If you've never played a double-reeded instrument before, you can make yourself go unconscious blowing in those things.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. And I just have always then pursued the music. It's just always been in me. I can't get rid of it,
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to.
Yeah, right. And it sounds like at least through band in school, then performing is something you were doing fairly young too.
Yeah, I played in church quite often. Our church was lucky we had an organ and a grand piano, and I was able to play the grand piano along with the organist. At that time, I didn't really have any interest in playing the organ. The piano was really it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until later, I think I was 28, when I started actually taking organ lessons and falling in love with that instrument as well. Something about the grandeur of that, I think it's the process of the music, the organ pipes, when the wind goes through it, you can feel that vibration, and there's something about that just is very energizing, I suppose, for me. But then I started working with the flute player, Kelly Filson, who is wonderful, and whenever we would have a gig, I always have to make sure, okay, is there a piano at the venue? If there wasn't, I have to carry my keyboard, which was not a big deal, but it's 90 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Carrying an amp, all that. And it's like, I really need to find something that's more portable. And so I tried um, the hammered dulcimer, which is a lovely instrument. And I played that for probably 3 years, but I'm not a percussionist. It just wasn't a good fit for me.
Right.
So then I thought, okay, I'm going to try the harp. And the lever harp seemed to be a good, the pedal harps are huge and you need to really study that. It's a difficult instrument.
Mm-hmm.
The lever harp I thought would be difficult as well, but I thought it might be a little bit more accessible. So I just actually went online to Amazon and ordered what's called a harpsicle harp made by Reese Harps out in Rising Sun, Indiana. And there's something about when you just pull that first string, that sound, that vibration, it's just incredible. So I ordered a larger one from Reese Harps, the same people, and got that in April of 2017, and that's just been like a whole new experience for me.
Yeah.
And then about a month ago, I saw that this beautiful harp here. This is Sophia Jane. We name our harps. My other harp is named Caroline. I saw her for sale, and I thought, well, I don't really need another harp. But then my husband talked me into it, and we went over to Ohio, and I met Jane Thurman, a wonderful woman, and bought this harp from her. And it's larger than Caroline, and it's got a beautiful, deep, resonant sound, and I love it. So.
Yeah. Well, as you were describing looking for a more portable instrument, I was wondering if you've actually found it.
Yeah, this is heavier than my other one. Caroline's 17 pounds. This is more like, 20 or 25. And I do have a little cart that I haul it on. But I don't need, if it's a smaller venue, I don't need amplification. It'll fit in my car easily. I don't need 3 people to help me carry the keyboard and the legs to the keyboard and all that sort of stuff. So
Right.
makes it nicer.
In your description of playing these instruments, you say something that I just don't hear very often, and I think I've experienced it. But you talk about the feeling of the instrument. In the case of the organ, you like that you can feel that vibration from the pipes.
Yeah,
and the harp as well.
It's very much that way, and I think that's just and it might be partly why the hammered dulcimer, and I didn't get along so well because I didn't have that same sense. It was like a disconnect. I will say I don't like, although I do. My preference is not to play an electro-pneumatic organ. I'd rather play a tracker because you can feel the keys go down, you can feel the pipe open. The harp is very much that way too. When you pluck the string, there's that vibration, and it's almost like a healing sound. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. And so when was it? I picked up a lot of this story, but when was it that you got into the harp? What time in your life?
About 3-4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago is when I first.
Okay.
Now I'd always seen one. I remember being down in Madison, Indiana, back I think in like 2010, and I went to a small tourist site. I'm not going to pronounce it. It was a small college, the first college in southern Indiana that admitted black students, and they were having an open day. And I remember hearing this really pretty sound, and I walked over, and it was a lady playing a lever harp. And I talked to her for quite a bit, and then I thought, well, I'll never play one of those because it's a diatonic instrument. You can't easily change keys. We talked about that earlier with shape notes. And so I thought, well, it's not really an instrument that I would be interested in, but I kept thinking back to that. Well, maybe I could. There's something very romantic and neat about the harp anyway.
Right.
But when, like I said, when I pluck that string, it's like, oh, there's there's this connection I just can't let go of.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little surprised to hear it's only been that long because I probably heard your harp for nearly.
Me too. I thought it was going to be. I've been playing for 15, 20 years, something like that.
Well, I mean, there is that, but I also just in spite of your experience on other instruments around here, I think that the Wild Rose Moon people just identify you as she's the harp player.
And that's pretty much. I think I will always probably be more adept at the piano because I've played it longer. But my feeling is, the harp is my instrument. I just feel, like I said, this connection with it. I can sit down, I call it doodling, but whatever I'm experiencing at that time, I can pull out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the harp
Mm-hmm.
will speak for me. I know that sounds really weird and odd, but that's what happens.
Not at all.
You know, yeah.
Yeah,
You
right.
experience-
I
yeah.
understand.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
sit down and it just pulls that emotion out of you and so yeah, the
Yeah.
harp is me. Yeah.
Well, that may be a part of being adept. Is not just having all the skill and knowing, you know, all the fancy things to do with your fingers,
Yeah.
but that connection
Yeah.
is a very important part of great music.
Yeah. But and not also when you hit a wrong note on say the violin or the piano, I mean it sticks out. When you're practicing the harp, the sound is so beautiful. Even a wrong note is not that awful.
Yeah.
Not that I want to play wrong notes.
Well,
But,
you
know,
were
it's
you
just-
were warming up or doing the sound check, I guess, before
Mm-hmm.
we started, and you apologized like, oh, I'm in the wrong key, you're hitting all these wrong notes, and I was thinking, well, I guess then when it gets good, it's probably going to be awfully good.
Still sounded pretty good.
Well, bless you for that. No, what I was doing is I was actually playing a piece that I had written in the key of F, but I had my harp tuned to E flat, and it's like that. It just didn't sound.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something, if you don't mind, I can explain a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Okay, this is a lever harp, so I don't know if they can see, but on one side there's these little metal levers that go up and down, and when you put it up, the string goes up a half step. So whenever you're playing a piece, if you have an accidental, you have to
yeah.
make sure that you have your music arranged to where you can get your left hand up to flip that lever without interrupting the flow of the music. I keep my harp tuned in E flat because that gives me more potential keys to play in by flipping up levers. But that's just, yeah. So right now I have it in the key of, I better have it in the key of F. Yes.
Okay, yeah, make sure it's set where you want it. I would like to hear a little bit of music.
Okay. I'm going to play a piece that I wrote. And I don't know, I know that you write music and Ryan does too.
Yeah.
I've never been able to have a preconceived melody. I don't know how you guys compose, but it's like I sit down and I just have this feeling and I try and draw it out and just follow where the music goes. And this came about, I was sitting outside one day in the autumn. It was such a beautiful day. And I'm thinking back to when you said you saw the snow on the leaf as you're driving to school. And I was looking up at the leaves and the wind was blowing and the sun was kind of setting. And it was just this beautiful, beautiful autumn evening. I thought, can I capture that somehow in my music? So that's what I tried to do with this piece. This is actually two pieces that I realized I wrote at two separate times and it should have been one piece. So I did combine them. Does that ever happen to you too, where you're just
yeah.
oh man. So I call this autumn diptych. I know that a diptych is more used in art, but it's really two pieces put together.
Yeah.
One.
Very nice.
Thank you.
It sounds like in your writing process and then in the music itself, just very impressionistic, and it feels like this, like a tender child that would come across in Debussy or I mean, like that kind of music.
Nice. But I think that's a pretty accurate how I feel, how I approach. Yeah.
So musically, what would be what would be the style or the major influences for you?
Well, it's going to sound really strange because I don't think that you hear any of who I think influenced me coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Cash is huge for me.
Yeah.
Hank Williams Sr. I love the old country music. I also love 16th century counterpoint. Harry Christophers and the 16 is one of my favorite groups that I love listening to. That clear, how you have multiple lines of music all occurring at the same time. More contemporary. I love. There's a group called Southern Gospel, which I got confused when you asked me about the Southern Harmony earlier. The shape notes, hymns, or hymn tunes, I guess I should say, because the hymns are the words, but hymn tunes, folk songs, the British Isles, things like that. They're all, but I don't know that they come across in my compositions so much.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you, like, if you were to dig, especially the first answers that you gave were these country musicians, and you said it'd be very surprising, and yet those were the ones you felt like naming first. You already acknowledged that this is a hard question to answer, so I'll forgive you if you can't. What is it that you think that draws you to their music, and is there anything in their music that you try to accomplish in your own?
Yeah, I think actually that's not quite as hard. I don't know if I can pin it down, but especially with Johnny Cash and with Hank Williams, there is such honesty in their simplicity, which I think is why I should have mentioned African spirituals. I love the way they can get across such deep-seated, such intense emotions in such a and it's not simple. That's not what I mean, but
well, I mean, it is in a sense.
Yeah,
Like that,
yeah.
I think sometimes we privilege complexity and we think that that's better than what's simple. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's an insult to say it's simple.
Right,
That's,
yeah.
In a way, that's the very compliment that you're paying it.
Yeah,
Being
exactly.
able to convey that much.
Yeah, in
And
such
what
in
seems
such
simple,
few
it's
words.
not easy
and
to do.
just- yeah. I think that's great. So, but that's really who I listen to a lot now. And a lot of people, when I say Johnny Cash, they're looking at me like, what? Yeah, where's the trumpets?
And I don't know, we probably don't have enough time to cover this question, but you mentioned sacred music as well, which we were discussing a little bit before the cameras went on. What is the significance of sacred music to what you write?
I think that sacred music does the same thing that I try to convey. It reaches a part of you where you don't necessarily have the words to express. Now, hymns, the text can sometimes come close, but that music lifts it to another plane. There's another dimension to the feeling and the emotion when you put it, when you get a well-crafted hymn text and you marry that to a beautiful hymn tune, you have a totally beautifully wonderful event that can just transform the moment, and I think that's wonderful.
I had this sense for, I don't know, I mean, when I was younger, my perspective on hymn music was like, pay attention to the words that you're singing, make sure you understand, and like focus, that's, kind of that's the important part. And it seems like the older I've got, it's like, I don't know if that is the important part because what the music does, I mean, like the spiritual value of what the music does.
Yeah, there has to, I think, the marriage of the two.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen it too. There are times where I see a hymn text, I'm like, oh, what a beautiful text. And then they put it to this hymn tune, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work together. But when you find the ones that do, it's like, wow.
Right.
God talking. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. I would like if he could talk a little more through the harp. We've got
Sure.
Time enough for another song.
Okay. I'm going to actually read a little bit of a poem here that I fell in love with.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I sat down after thinking about this poem. The poem's by Sarah Teasdale. She wrote it in the midst of World War I and the midst of the flu epidemic. So there was a lot of hardships going on at that time. It's called There Will Come Soft Rains. There will come soft rains and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of the war. Not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone. And at first that sounds like a really dire poem, and I think she probably meant it that way, but I looked at it as more like, okay, she's right, birds will fly away when there's a battle going, but they'll come back when the battle is done and sing as if nothing happened. So that means it's up to us. We need to have the compassion for each other. We need to care for each other. And so that's how I kind of sat down and wrote the piece. My piece is called Soft Falls the Rain, and again, I tried to capture a mood.
If you wanted, you could probably use the poem's title for that song. There's a
I could, yeah, but I didn't.
Well, Ray Bradbury wrote a story by that title, and he quotes the poem
Yeah.
in full
Yeah.
in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So if he stole the title, you probably
I could
if you
too,
wanted.
yeah.
Very nice work,
Thank you.
Cindy. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And with the last couple minutes, I wanted to just bring up your role here at Wild Rose Moon.
Mm-hmm.
You're very involved in this place, and we've seen some of the importance of music in your life. And I guess I would just ask the question: what's the importance of Wild Rose Moon, or the draw of this place for you?
It's a place that allows creativity to flow, but it also then draws people in to care for each other, to be a community, to teach, to nurture, to expose people to different things. I think it's it's a beautiful place. The people here are very caring. I remember the first time I walked into an open mic, I was scared to death. And I think you were the MC that night, and you played some really nice, lovely, high-powered music, and I'm like, and I'm going to follow him. But the audience is so wonderful, and the staff at Wild Rose. I think the vision here is to bring a spot of beauty into our world, and that's what we need. We need those beautiful spots because life can be hard, it can be tough, and to have that sort of working together and commitment to bringing out good things, I think is very important to any community, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. We'll have Cindy back on in half an hour, so you can get yourself a evening snack, but don't go too far away. We'll be right back. And
that rhymed, John.
This is what I do, man. And of course, if you have an interest in being a part of what we do at Wild Rose Moon, then reach out to us. Visit the website. You can find us online, and we're always looking for volunteers, looking for financial support for what we do. So we invite you to be a part of that mission as well.
Episode of the Moonlight series of Wild Rose Moon. We got to mention our sponsors that help make all this possible: the Gibson Foundation, Gibson Insurance, Marshall County Community Foundation, Marshall County Tourism, and Encore Performance Arts Center. If you'd like to help out the moon, you can go to wildrosemoon.com and show some support by donating. If you want to become a member, for a $50 membership, you can get yourself a book about the moon and what we do here.